Good evening and welcome to Rhythm and Blues Preservation Society Monday Music Spotlight. I'm your host, founder CEO Perry Thompson. Tonight I'll be interviewing Mr. Howard Johnson. So let's try it again, y'all. Okay. All right. So back on live. Let him know again. Back on live. Technical difficulty, ladies and gentlemen, but we'll get together. I definitely wanted to be Mr. Johnson. Let's see if we send a request. Let's see. Okay, just checking. Request to join. Alright, let's go. See if we sent a request to join yet. Just waiting around. So as we wait for Mr. Johnson, as I said earlier during the CEO corner, we got a lot of things popping off with the Rhythm and Blues Preservation Society, and for November Hip Hop History Month, and our Founders Day, but for Founders Month for December, we got a lot of things going on, and I got some very, very busy things doing this week. Let's see. Okay, what's up, Cool? Cool, my ski joint. What's up, brother? All right. Still waiting for Mr. Johnson. Hold on 1 second. Alright, so as we're still waiting for Mr. Johnson, having some kind of difficulties with Instagram. So as I was saying, so we have the Hip Hop History Month, working with universities and colleges with that. We'll let everyone know about that. And as I said, we're doing a toy drive as well. You want to be a sponsor for our toy drive, or you want to like to donate toys for our event. Email us at info@rhythmbluesps.org. Let's see. Wait, Mr. Johnson's having a problem here. So as we wait for Mr. Johnson, I just like to talk about what we're all about. Again, we're all about the preservance of Black music culture, and very important to us, teaching the education of Black music, and educating the youth about it as well. This is an organization that I started because I wanted to honor those who contribute to the culture of Black music, because I feel it's very important that we acknowledge our legends who contribute to the culture. Myself and my vice president feel the same way, and again, we're very appreciative, and grateful for all the support that we've received. See, Mr. still hasn't come on yet. All right. So, yes, he's having some technical difficulties, Mr. Howard Johnson. Fortunately, we're looking forward to interviewing him and see what's going on. Let me see what's going on. I'm live. Let them know I'm live. I am live. So send a video request. So we wait for Mr. Johnson. Again, we're working on some Hip Hop History Month. Cool my ski. Let's do something for November, brother, for Hip Hop History Month. Let's do an interview for Cool my ski. He's on. You know, hit me up, DM me. Let's set up something for Hip Hop History Month. Yeah. I'd like to do an interview with you. That'd be cool. One of the legends of hip hop, Mr. Cool my ski. Let's see. Try it again with Mr. Howard Johnson. No. Okay. Still waiting for Mr. Johnson. Has technical difficulties on his part. Oh, well, I don't know if it's part, but always something. Always something, you know. We lie, you never know. You know. So Queen Diva, hey Queen. Yeah, just waiting for Mr. Johnson to come on. See if it's in the video request. Hey. Okay, let's see. Okay, I'm on live, Mr. Seven. Just join the video request, Mr. Johnson. Okay, let's see. Accept.
Bam.
Hey, there you go. Ladies and gentlemen, joining our Monday Music Spotlight is Mr. Howard Johnson, singer-songwriter. How you doing, sir?
I'm just trying to make it look good one day, one step at a time, you know?
Thank you for being on our Monday Music Spotlight. You know, got a little technical difficulties there, but I'm glad you're on. How you doing tonight, sir?
Good. Just here in the studio banging away, you know, getting ready to release a new album.
Okay, we'll discuss that later. We're going to discuss your new project later.
Okay.
First, let's start at the beginning of your career. Now, you're from Miami, Florida, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Coconut Grove, to be specific. Say that again?
Who's some of your influences growing up in music?
Oh, wow. Tom Jones, Frank Sinatra, Tony Bennett, Andy Williams, Pavarotti. My early childhood music-wise was very pop-oriented more than R&B because my parents were very religious. So I really only listened to gospel music, you know. And when I was in school, you know, I was doing all of the popular music, you know, Broadway plays and stuff like that. So
Okay. So when did you go into R&B music? At what age you started listening to R&B?
Probably 15.
Okay.
Because at 15, I was like the first black kid that had a car at my high school. So I had an 8-track.
Big news right there. A young brother with a car at 15, that's big.
Yes. So I had a Volkswagen, a 1963 Volkswagen that I used to call Brown Sugar. And I had an 8-track player in it. So that's how I kind of start getting introduced to, you know, R&B music then.
Okay. Now, during the 70s, black music was kind of big in Florida. I mean, you had Betty Wright, you had Cape Sunshine Band, you had Gwen McRae, George McRae. You know, talk about a little bit about the black music scene in Miami during that time you growing up.
Well, actually, during that particular time, I worked, I moonlighted, so to speak, at TK Records. And what I mean by moonlighting, it wasn't official that I worked for the janitor that worked at TK Records after hours. So, you know, so I was kind of exposed to Betty Wright, KC and the Sunshine Band, Benny Lattimore, Clarence Carter, and those guys. So I really kind of cut my teeth, you know, at TK, you know, when I was very young.
Right. Right. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Wow. So when did you start actually performing, singing and performing?
Well, it goes back actually when I was in the first grade. I was very shy. My parents were very religious, so I was kind of like choir boy from the Five Heartbeats. And I remember they were having a talent show in the auditorium, in the cafeteria, actually at the school. And they asked anybody that they want to get up and do anything. And I walked out and I danced to James Brown because it was the first time I'd ever heard it. And it was just kind of different to me. And I don't know where that came from for me to do that, but I did it. But then, you know, being 15 and then being exposed to, you know, R&B music, then in class, I would, if there was a popular part that, take for instance, if it were Andy Williams, I would make it very soulful, you know, instead of doing it, you know, a traditional way that it was done on their record, I would kind of sauce it up and put my own vibe to it. So that was really the beginning. And then I started, you know, participating in some of the local bands.
Okay. Now, you were a member of a group called Night Flight. Now, talk about the beginnings of that group and how you became a member, you know, during that time of Night Flight.
I was working in Miami Beach at a club called the Castaways. And the lead singer, he's now deceased, a guy named Turbine. He was a saxophone player and he was the lead singer. And he was a little envious of my voice. So he told me the only way that I could be in the group was to sing background and to play percussion. So growing up in Miami, I grew up around a lot of Cubans. So it was a natural progression for me to, you know, play congas and bongos and timbales. Because I was around Cubans all the time, you know, with salsa music. So I did that. And I was working 6 nights a week from 8 o'clock to 3 o'clock in the morning. And I was making $45 a week.
Wow.
Yeah, I was killing it.
Okay. Wow. Now, the song that Night Flight had in '79, If You Want It. Now, I remember that song. That was a radio-friendly song, but I do remember recording that on my tapes. That was a big radio hit.
Yes, but that was also the reason that I left Miami, was because of If You Want It with Night Flight, because you got to remember, payola was very big then, and especially in Miami. And Henry Stone, who was the owner and president, CEO of TK Records, payola was crazy. So you were hearing KC and the Sunshine Band 14, 15 times a day. You were hearing, you were hearing Betty Wright. You were hearing Gwen McRae. You were hearing everything from TK, Brass Construction. It was crazy during that period of time. So I never got any love. When they would play the song, they would never say Miami's own Howard Johnson and Sandy Toronto from Night Flight. They would never give me that kind of love. And I was really only there for 2 records. And at that particular time, unbeknownst to me, my managers were the biggest drug dealers in the United States.
Wow.
You know, and I mean, because Miami was a drug capital of the world during the, you know, the late 70s. You know, the cocaine cowboy, that was real. You know, that was real. And it kind of spoiled me because I never did drugs or drink or smoke or anything. I had a cigarette boat and I had a Learjet, and it was crazy during that period of time, you know.
Wow. So after so you say you left Miami, where did you go?
Well, after the 2 records with Night Flight, I actually got kicked out of the group.
Wow.
I got kicked out of Night Flight. And a friend of mine from TK Records, Howard Smiley, who was an A&R person at TK, knew about my talent, and he thought it was way beyond. So If You Want It, and he signed me to a production deal because he had a production deal with Kashif, Paul Lawrence Jones, and Maury Brown. And he asked me, you know, did I know who Kashif was? And I had heard, you know, I'm in Love. And I was like, yeah, shoot, yeah, you know, I'll do that deal. So I signed that deal with him. And next thing you know, I was gone. I was living in New York.
Wow. Okay. So you get signed to A&M Records.
Yes.
Okay. So you released, your first album came out in 82, am I correct?
82, yes. Yes.
Now, but the breakout album was 83 with So Fine on it, am I correct?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
So that was the first album, was that. It actually came out in the summer of 82 when I did, you know, Soul Train with So Fine.
I remember that.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember that. Now, that was a great song. Now, talk about, you know, because there's a little history behind that song. Talk about a little bit of history about it, because that wasn't the original title. Am I correct with that?
No, it was actually a commercial, and it was a commercial for a sweet cake that's like Twinkies. And the first time I heard it, because she played it, and it was J Cakes taste great. And I looked at him, I says, dude, I ain't singing that crap. That's crazy. I don't want to. I says, man, you need to give that to Evelyn King. I don't want to. And I walked out of the studio. So I came in the next day, and everybody was there. It was Kashif, Paul Lawrence Jones, and Maury was sitting there. And he goes, sit down. So I sat down, and he pushed the button, and I heard, ooh, so fine, blow my mind. See, I never let it go past the chorus when he first did it. And then when I heard do 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 ba-do bo ba-do bo bo and I went, oh my goodness. And I looked at him, I says, you didn't give that to Evelyn, did you? He says, no, I saved it for your arrogant ass. So yeah, I lucked out. I lucked out on that deal, but it was probably one of the greatest, you know, things and songs and decisions that I made in my life to not fight to get back into Night Flight. You know,
right.
And I love the Night Flight because to me, the groups that I were in, specifically a group called the Fire Band with Rodney Matthews and Stevie B, who does freestyle.
Yeah.
We were in the same group together called Fire Band.
Okay.
And we kind of fashioned ourselves after Earth, Wind, and Fire. And we actually opened up for Earth, Wind, and Fire in 1975 at the Miami Highlight in Miami. And then here it is 40 some odd years later, 3 years ago, I get a call from a friend of mine named PB that wanted me to audition for Larry Dunn's.
Larry Dunn, original member of Earth and the Fire.
Yes. And when I was like honored, and when I went in, the whole band was sitting there, And he said to me, he says, man, you're a legend. I go, dude, please don't even use that word. Not around you. You're the legend. You know what I'm saying? I'm just a guy just trying to make it. And he says, I know we can't afford to pay you what you're really worth, but I'd love for you to be. I says, dude, I would do this gig for free. And then they asked me, I said, well, what do you want me to sing? And everybody, you know, in unison said Reasons. So he started playing it, and I was just like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. Then I said, stop, hold up. And he was looking at me, he's like, what's wrong? And I says, which Philip do you want? Do you want the straight one or do you want the raspy? Philip Bailey. And everybody went, what? And they laughed, and they said, well, give me the raspy one. So he started playing again. I go, hold up. And they go like, what now? I says, do you want the record version or do you want the live version?
Yeah.
So
Now,
that was like an amazing time
right.
to, you know, and Larry Dunn and I are, you know, very, very, you know, good and close friends now.
Okay.
So it really came full circle.
Now, cool. Now I want to talk about during that time of So Fine, you moved to New York. Now, during that time in New York in the 80s, a lot of people don't know that black music was really banging. I mean, because you had Melba Moore, you had Freddie Jackson, you had Melissa, you had the Hush Productions crew, Paul Lawrence, Kashif. Talk about that time in New York during the 80s when R&B was like really bubbling during that time.
Well, you got to remember, we were products of the Motown era, the Stax era. You know what I mean? And a lot of people, and I'm not upset about it when I watch all of the stuff about, you know, the 50 years of hip hop and so forth. Did you know that Kashif was the beginning of hip hop? Because Kashif was so busy at that time that he was the one that gave Keith Sweat and Johnny Kemp to Teddy Riley. So when you got So Fine, you got I'm in Love,
Right.
Love Come Down, you got Just Got Paid, you got I Wanna,
Right.
that was the beginning of hip hop. I think they got it mixed up when they talk about hip hop and rap, because it's kind of like two different things that kind of got melded together. But we were the ones that took those beats, the beat that Kashif had, the bass playing that Kashif did, and when you talk about what Teddy Riley did, that was the beginning. Or it's an intricate part of hip hop that's
Okay.
been ignored.
Okay. That you know, Teddy was really he got his start in hip hop. So I mean, I definitely agree with that.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes.
He got definitely got start in hip hop. Now you released 2 albums on A&M. You released how many albums did you release on A&M?
Actually, you released 4 albums.
4 albums. Right.
Yes, the first album was Keeping Love New with So Fine. The
So
second
fine.
album was the Doing It My Way, which the System produced. And then the third album was The Vision, which had Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis on it.
Yeah.
And then I did the Johnson and Branson, the self-titled album after that.
Right. Now, after the 4th album, did you take like a little hiatus, or did you go into the back for production wise?
When you get kicked off an album, if you want to call that a hiatus, yeah, I got kicked off at A&M because A&M had a regime change, and normally when that happens at a record company, when someone is as strong as John McClain was at A&M, they changed everything. Everybody, you got to remember how strong A&M was at that time. A&M had Sting. A&M had Jeffrey Osborne. A&M had Brian Loren. A&M had Janet Jackson. A&M had Atlantic Star. A&M had Keith Washington.
Yeah.
So it was magical what was going on at A&M. And I think that the thing that's a little different about how I admire Puff and Jay-Z and those guys from that era, they were more concentrating on collaborations and branding themselves. We were more into the music and making sure things were, you know, at the next level musically. You know, production, Brian Loren, his production, stuff he did with Vesta, the stuff that he did with Sting. And then you got to remember the powerhouse John McClain. John McClain was, dude, John McClain was like, he was our Quincy Jones. John McClain just took us to another level. You know, I remember when I was in the studio with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, and I would send overnight the DAT to John McClain, and it was banging. It was killing, right? And I'd send it to John, and John would call me and go, Hojo, tell him you want something else. And I was like, oh, John, dude, this is killing. He goes, yeah, but I need more. I need him to dig a little deeper. I need you to dig a little deeper. If you're not listening to 100 albums a day, you're not beginning to do your job.
Wow.
It was like, John, but, and he'd hang the phone up. So, you know, and I've said this before, a lot of people don't know who Bundini is. And Bundini was kind of like Muhammad Ali's hype man. He was always there. And we need that. We need hype men. We need a Bundini. And I would always tell people that are coming up, who's your Bundini? Your Bundini may be your parents, may be your best friend.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you need that. You need, because, you know, we as people of color sometimes, and I'll get in trouble for saying this, we all know that Michael Jordan is, in my opinion, he's the GOAT, okay? But you and I know, and we know, there was somebody on the park in New York, Chicago, Detroit, San Francisco that was doing the same thing that just didn't have the opportunity. And it's like how the other people say, hold my beer. We've been doing that for a long time, because all sometimes you got to do is take a finger and put it in our chest and say, yo, that's all you got, and we gonna go to another level. Every sport that we've ever been in, they've changed the rules. They're trying to change the rules in gymnastics because of Biles. They changed the rules of golf when Tiger came in. When Jabbar came in, they changed the rules. And that's why the 3 points came into the game. It's like, no, they killing this right here. We need to change the rules up. You know what I'm saying?
Now, when you got kicked off A&M Records, now what did you decide to do when they let you go? What did you decide to do then, as far as music wise?
Well, reality kicked in. I didn't have a gigantic budget and went out and, you know, bought a Bentley or whatever. You know, we only had a small portion of our advance money to try to live off of. So I came back to Miami. I was selling cars at Bolton Nissan, riding the bus with headphones and a Walkman, trying to learn the songs off of Alexander O'Neal's record. That was the extreme. When I talk about people, I used to get upset at Ebony and Jet magazine when they would put Walter Payton's house or all of these wonderful things, you know, the spoils of what their works were. When I was like, no, you need to be showing what the underbelly is, because that's where the work is. When you hear the story about Kobe and the stuff that Kobe was doing and what Michael Jordan went through, and the story of Larry Bird shooting 1,000 free throws every day, people don't see the underbelly. But everybody wants the diamond crusted Rolex and the big house and the Lambo, and it's like, yo, I put in work every day in this studio. Still, every day. I'm running up and down mountains and whatever. I got gray hair and don't care about it because that's life. I'm not dyeing my hair or whatever, because some people are inspired when they see me, you know, on Instagram running up mountains and taking my dogs on 3 mile, 5 mile, 10 mile hikes or whatever, working out. Yeah, you don't know what tomorrow's gonna bring. And my dad used to tell me, son, you're busy living or you're busy dying. I'm busy living. So I got to put in the work, and those things are important. So go back. I digress a little bit. Yeah, I was at a car dealership selling cars, trying to learn, which I think was probably one of the most phenomenal albums I've ever heard, is Alexander O'Neal's record. That the one that, and they were innovative. Jimmy and Terry were very innovative at that time, because that was the first CD that you couldn't skip and go to track 4, track 8. You had to listen to it from track 1 all the way to the end. You know what I'm saying? So it was a concept record. And I was like, oh, I got this. This is what this means. Jerome Benton, that's my dude. And I was like, oh, dude, y'all told a story. You know what I mean? And that's what kind of leads up, and I don't want to go too far in this. That's what led to the record that I'm going to release, which we'll talk about, that I heard Beyonce says nobody's putting out concept albums anymore. This new record is a concept record. You know what I mean? Because it took me 8 years to do it. You know what I mean?
Okay. Talk about, right. Now that, you know, you went through your, so now we're in the millennium now. So now you work, did you do, now were you working on, you said you were working on this for 8 years, yes. This new album?
Yes.
So how's the process going with that?
Well, it's finished now. It was actually finished in the summer of '82, and I was going to release it on the anniversary, because it was 40 years since the summer of '82 that So Fine was released. And I said I didn't really want to mix the two. I wanted to make sure that it was going to hit right. And timing is everything in this business. And I didn't want to rush and do it. So I decided I'll release it in January or February. It's going to have a full length video, basically it'll be a short movie. And it's called Compelled. And it'll be a short movie. And there's only 11 songs on it. 22.5 minutes on side A, 22.5 minutes on side B. I'm going back old school. I really don't think that as humans, as people of color, that our attention span can last more than 12 or 13 songs. Because when you go back, Al Green, they were releasing records that had 7 and 8 songs on it. And they were all killers. So I wanted to make sure that this particular record just had this concept, this common thread that was going through it, and where I can keep you captivated. And then thanks to Michael Jackson and the Thriller and showing us these stories in these songs, that's what I wanted to do with Compel. I wanted to be able to, you know, tell this story, because actually it's 9 years. I was getting ready to release the record 9 years ago, and my dad died. And that took me apart. And I threw away every song except for the song I wrote for him. I was 1.5 years into it. I was about finished. Then my brother died unexpectedly. That blew me away. I threw everything away except for what I wrote for my dad, and then I added my brother. And then I was like, 2 years, okay, I'm ready, got ready to release it, and my mom died. And it destroyed me, actually. It destroyed me. And thank God for family and friends and pulling me out of that depression and pulling me out of, you know, why me, and I'm so hurt and I'm alone, and I pulled myself through. And then my best friend died in Texas, Cedric Hang, a cowboy, and it was like, hey, I got to keep pushing through, and I pushed through, and I think it's a storytelling album. It'll be vinyl only with digital download that I'll be selling at the beginning of the year.
Okay. You gotta let me, once it's out, I definitely want to we'll definitely put it on social media for people to support it.
Absolutely.
Now,
thank you.
yes. Oh, absolutely. Now, you got a concert coming up in November. Talk about that concert.
You talking about the night of classic R&B with Lilo Thomas. Thank you, Lilo. With Melba Moore, Love You, My Sister. The System. Oh, you're in my system. Oh. The System. And, of course, Alexander O'Neal. I mean, these are my people. I mean, I was part of Hush Productions during that particular time. The first concert I did in Harlem, it was an outdoor concert, and guess who was on the show? Dougie Fresh and The System.
Wow.
So yeah, you know, it was an incredible time, and Alexander O'Neal, I mean, I've admired from the first time I heard his voice with Jimmy and Terry and the time that I spent with them. So it'll be great to, you know, to be back with Alexander. So it's like, it's family. It's family. I mean, Lilo sang background on half of the Keeping Love new album.
Right.
You know, he was part of the Hush. So it's like family. It's like not, you know, not seeing in a long time and going back to the picnic and hooking it up.
That's great. I mean, it's a great lineup, and like I said, like you said, it's a New York Black music experience, you know, during that time. So it's like a reunion for you. So it's a great thing to see. That day when they you know it was a great lineup, and they added you. I was like, okay, Howard John. Okay, wow, this is going to be a great show.
Yeah.
Now you got a new album coming out. You got the concert coming up, and you also touring with Earth, Wind. You're doing the Earth, Wind, and Fire thing now. What else you got going on? I know the new album's coming out. When do you anticipate the date of the album release?
I would say within the month of January, and I'll let everybody know and let you know what the exact date, because we're going to do a launch party and everything here in LA and possibly in New York. It all depends on how this show goes. And speaking of the show, it's November the 24th, the night after Thanksgiving. NYCB Westbury in New York, and you can get your tickets at Ticketmaster.com. So yeah, this new album, it's just gonna be magic, and I'll kind of peek to people that nobody else knows this, and you're getting the first. On this album, I have a country song, and a lot of people don't know that I am a cowboy also. I wrote the theme song for the Black Rodeo, the Bill Pickett Invitational Rodeo that's been going 40 years strong. So I wrote the theme song for that called Bill Pickett Rodeo.
Well, you know,
I wrote that song.
October Country Music Month, you know, we've been posting on social media about Black artists who do country music. So,
wow.
Yeah.
I'll send you an MP3 of it. And I mean, you can go to YouTube right now and pull up, you know, Bill Pickett Invitational Rodeo, Howard Johnson. I sing the Black national anthem, Lift Every Voice. So yeah, the song's called Bill Pickett Rodeo.
Okay, wow. That's
so yeah.
You learn something every day.
There's a country song on the record. There's a rock song on the record, and there's a gospel song on the record. So I'm doing subsequent albums to each one of those genres. So that's what I'm working on now, because you never know what's going to attract people's attention, you know, when they hear things. And I've always thought, you know, I talked to a lot of executives back in the day when I first started doing country publicly, because I was kind of a cowboy when I was growing up. My uncle had horses and cows, you know, in Florida that I would go and ride on the weekends. And when I would talk to some of the Black executives, you know, at the companies, they were like, oh, when they would hear it, says, oh man, we need to take that to Nashville. And I would say, God dag it, forget going to Nashville. If you took our country music and put it on what used to be called Quiet Storm, by 8 o'clock in the morning, it'd be a hit, because we'd be all over it. Because what is gospel? what is country? The only difference between country and gospel, one has a B3, which is gospel, and the other has a steel pedal, which is country, which is still us. And that, I mean, when you listen to Al Green, if you were to take the B3 out and put a steel pedal, it's a country song.
You right.
You know what I mean? So my version of country is if you took Ronnie Millsap and Vince Gill and ran them headlong into Al Green and Otis Redding, that's my kind of country.
I got you. I understand it.
So yeah, I got a song on there called For You that, let me tell you, I sang it at the Black Rodeo and I got a standing ovation because people are like, wow, I never, yes you have, you done heard Al Green, you've heard me in country. It's just got a steel pedal. I got a steel pedal and a B3 in it.
Wow.
So I'm just doing what we do. You know what I'm saying? Life is too short. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I'm working on. I'm working on subsequent albums for country, and my country name, another thing that's a first on your show, my country name is Johnson Howard.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Johnson,
and my rock group name is Buddy Deuce. That's my rock. And my gospel group is called H plus H.
Okay.
So yeah, it's gonna be very different than what people have known from me, because a lot of people still don't connect So Fine and If You Want It, because a lot of people just don't know the history. You know, it's my first hit, you know, that I had with Sandy Toronto in Night Flight. That was really a pop song. You know what I mean? So people don't connect those two. And then I had subsequent albums after doing the Johnson and Branson record, which was the fourth record on A&M, because I did another Johnson and Branson record called Packed and Waiting that's critically acclaimed, that's sold like, you know, hot takes over in Europe. And I'm actually, you know, and I thank God every single day, bigger in Europe than I am here. But that's always been our history.
That's always been
Here's because
yes.
America's fast food mentality, and they kind of kick us to the curb. And it's like Europe just goes, wait a minute, they don't want that. It's like, yeah. So, you know, we do what we do, and, you know, we just keep moving. So hopefully with what has taken place with Lilo and Live Nation putting together, you know, Melba himself, Alexander O'Neal and the system, you know, and Melba, I think it's going to be the beginning of something new.
Oh, yes, because I totally agree with that. And I'm hoping that the show is a success. I'm hoping that you'll continue this tour. And I'm looking forward to hearing a new album. I'm glad that that you are still doing what you're doing, Mr. Johnson. You know, and it's appreciative. Your contribution to Black music culture is appreciative. It's almost time. I was almost up. Any last words as far as encouragement, as far as what they can reach your social media, where they can reach you at? Just let everyone know where you can be reached at. Any last encouraging words for the people?
Yes. I can be reached on Instagram at Hojo Music, HOJO Music on Instagram. On Facebook, it's Howard Johnson 940. I don't know how they came up with that, but they did. Or you could reach me at howardjohnsonmusic.com. And I'm pretty much on here every day. And encouraging words. Wow. Kids are important. Young adults are important. And I just want you to remember, my dad told me this. Says, son, whatever it is that you're going to be in life, be the best at it. But remember, the best is unknown. It took me
Mm.
many years to figure out what that was, because who are some of the best musicians in the world? Jazz musicians. But do
Right.
jazz musicians get the recognition is Cardi B and gangster rap and all of the craziness? No. So it took me a while to learn that. And the other thing is, be careful what it is that you volunteer for, because you may have to do it. And also, when you look at the glory of it all, the big fancy cars, fancy homes, fancy jewelry, sometimes you got to look at the underbelly, because the underbelly is what's important. The underbelly is what carries it, and having that intestinal fortitude and putting in that work. You know, they've got computers and AI that can do so much stuff for you. We had to sit down and learn the chords that Larry Dunn was doing, and the drum parts that Steve Ferrone from the Average White Band was doing, or the guitar playing of Curtis Mayfield. We had to put in that kind of work. Now you can push a button and get, the drum loop from James Brown, from Clyde McFadden. So things have kind of changed. So, and that's great if that's where you want to go and what you want to do. But when the sound disappears from the orchestra and the only thing on is you, be careful for what you volunteer for, because you may have to do it. You know what I mean? So you got to be ready when it goes off, because one day it'll go off. These are my heroes. I never met Jimi Hendrix. I never met Stevie Ray Vaughan. I never met Buddy Holly. I never met Otis Redding, but I met people that did.
Right.
And when I sing like it's my last time, because one of these times it may be. And what I found out from people that saw all of those artists, they said that they always performed like it was their last time. So that's the kind of work that I put in. And that's the kind of work that you need to put in. I mean, I don't always agree with everything that Kanye says, but the work that young man put in, the thought processes that he goes through, that he went through, he was putting in work. And a lot of people put in work, and it comes out in the pudding sometimes, so to speak. So yeah, like I said, be careful what you volunteer for, because you may have to do it. And someone's always watching, always. So be careful what you put out there.
Right. Mr. Howard Johnson, it's been a great honor interviewing you. Very, very, very enlightening. I appreciate you being on our Money Music Spotlight. You are definitely a contributor to Black music culture. We salute you, the Rhythm and Blues Preservation Society. We wish you nothing but success in your future music, your endeavors. Peace and blessings to you and your family. And before I go out of here, I just want everyone to know that we are a nonprofit organization. And if you'd like to make a donation, you can go to our Cash App, $RBPSOC18, PayPal.me/RBPS18, and our Vima at RBPSOC. All donations are tax deductible and appreciative. Again, Mr. Howard Johnson, I thank you, sir. Appreciate you being on our Money Music Spotlight. You are definitely a legend. You may not want to, but I know you as a legend. You contribute to Black music culture. I learned a lot from this interview. You dropped some heavy jewels. Again, I thank you, sir. Congratulations on your new album. We'll always keep in touch. Keep me updated with what you're doing. We'll promote you, sir. And again, thank you. We salute you, sir.
Thank you. I'm humbled and I'm honored. Thank you very much.
All right.
Much appreciated.
Yes, sir. This has been a Money Music Spotlight. I'm Founder CEO Perry Tom for the Rhythm and Blues Preservation Society. We wish everyone a great night, a productive, healthy week. Again, Mr. Howard Johnson, peace and love to you, brother. And we wish everyone a good night. Peace and love.